bloody Pajeros. If you're a Pajero owner, you know this pain. So one thing I don't like. Let me take this trailer off and we'll get into the video and I'll show you what you're here for. I just got that trailer, it's a work in progress and it's still got the original pull handle on it, which is a pain in the backside. If you follow the channel and you've seen some of the work that I've done in the caravan, I switched the original hitch, I suppose, on that and changed it over to the Alco one, the Alco 360 I think it is. So I need to come up with something for that trailer. I'm really interested in trying with those McHitches, everybody raves about those. So anyway, the reason you're here today is we're actually going to mount a fire extinguisher in the back of the Pajero. If you follow the channel, you know that we've got the drop down table here at the back, and we've got the little induction cooker that we run off that, which runs off the lithium battery setup, and we've now got the air fryer. And I had the air fryer out on the weekend, just gone actually yesterday for a drive, went for a little bit of a fire, bit of a drive in the bush, a little bit of a four-wheel drive, and ended up just pulling up and we cooked some lunch with the air fryer, and that worked very bloody well. I'm happy to report that it did very similar as far as the initial testing we did, where I found that it would cycle on and then cycle off fairly frequently, so it wasn't providing a load or a constant load to the battery, so it's actually a lot more efficient than first expected. More tests to follow. So the video itself isn't necessarily about the fire extinguisher, it's going to be about how we're going to mount the fire extinguisher. So I just ducked down to Super Cheap and picked this one up. I went to BCF and I looked at a few different other places. I was tossing up between 1 kilo and 2 kilo or 2.3 kilo, depending on which one the shops had. In the end, I just went with 1 kilo. I thought the 2 or the 2.3, which is going to be not so much too big, but just too heavy. Ultimately, what we're going to do is we're going to mount it up the back and we're going to put it on the Kaon rack. How might we do that, you ask? I'm glad you did. Let's have a look. I was actually watching somebody's video the other night and saw this, and I apologise, I can't remember who it was. It was just some random four-wheel drive video or something like that. Might not have been four-wheel drive. Anyway, and they had one of these. And I thought, you beauty, I want one of those for the back of my car. And if you decide you want one too, I'll put a link down in the description where I got this off Amazon. What it actually is a quick release mounting bracket for your fire extinguisher. This is the unit itself. We've got one side that obviously mounts to whatever it is you're wanting to mount the fire extinguisher to. These are advertised as roll bar quick releases for your fire extinguishers. So what you'll get a number of different just hose clamps included. And what you would do is put the hose clamp through these holes here, so through those holes there, and then attach that to your roll bar. Because I'm not doing that, we're just going to attach it to our, whether a flat surface or whatever. In our case, we're going to attach it to the Kaon. You can see there are 2 bolt holes at the end. I didn't realise that when I bought it, so I got bloody lucky. Take your fire extinguisher out of its original holding bracket. To be honest, we could just mount this to the Kaon rack and be done. All we'd need to do is just mount using these 2 holes. I could just go up there like that and it'll be mounted, no problems. It's reasonably quick release, you just have to flick the catch and pull it out. But what we do with this is you just take a couple of your hose clamps, the appropriately sized one, put it round, so that holds it onto that section of the bracket. This is mounted to your flat surface, the Kaon rack. And then all you need to do is pull this pin and just pull your fire extinguisher off. There's a hole cut out here, so that drops into the pin on the bottom. You've got a hole here straight through, and that's just for that locator pin there. There we go. But everything else looks just really, really good. I really like the anodized red bit here. I think we'll mount it that way with that pin down the bottom, so it's going to be easy just to grab and pull that. So grab with the left hand, pull the fire extinguisher, and just be good to go. That doesn't come with any bolts. They are assuming that you are just using your hose clamps to mount everything. The reviews say that the hose clamps aren't the best, and they're not. They are very, very thin. So if you wanted to, you can go and replace those hose clamps with something a bit more substantial. If I'd upgraded to the 2 kilo fire extinguisher, I might have looked at that, but I think for the sake of the the little 1 kilo, I think I'm going to be okay with the hose clamps provided. But there are no bolts if you want to mount it to a flat surface, so we're going to have to go and find those. We're going to use bolts just to make it nice and firm. I don't want this thing coming off while we're traveling. It's going to be located right where all the cooking happens. It's going to be easy to grab. Just see whether any of these holes are going to line up with the ones that are already in it. Even if we went on the bottom to try and line up with those holes to save us having to drill some holes in it, it's not going to work. I wasn't sure whether I wanted to go with a taller 1 kilo or just a little fatty, so I went with a little fatty because it reminds me of me. And I think that's going to work pretty well. Grab one of your hose clamps, the one that most appropriately fits your fire extinguisher. You can be using these for either mounting it to whatever you're mounting it to, or you can be using these to mount onto your fire extinguisher. So it's up to you what combination you use. So to get these fitted, you're going to just grab your Phillips head or a flathead, and you're going to need to back them all the way out because you need to thread these through the bracket. Just like that. Take it all the way out. When you get around to putting these together, all you're going to do is just push that in a little bit, just where it come out, and then just start screwing, and you'll feel it will eventually catch and it'll just start to pull that in. Grab the ones you want, back them all the way out. Second verse, same as the first. You're into the 8th AM. Then just grab your bracket that you're going to be mounting to the fire extinguisher. You will see that it is curved. Just put that wherever you think it's going to go. At this stage, I'm not going to put it on tight because I might want to rotate this. I want this in the best position that's going to allow me just to grab it and use it straight away. So what I'm going to do is put the locking pin up this end. So I'm going to have the fire extinguisher facing that way. So in theory, I can grab it with my right hand, which is my dominant hand, reach for that pin with the left and pull it down. I've got to tell you, it's already proving to be a little bit challenging, because this is round and you get that through and it just wants to go like that. And what we're going to have to do is bend it back to get it to go through and get that to go back up there like that. Hopefully you can see that. And then we're just going to have to push it through. I'd say that's where some of this paint has come off. Looks like they've tested this, and that's exactly the wear points where that metal's come off, where this bracket touches. So I'm just going to feed it through about that much. Get your second one, get this end, bend it up, something like that, and just feed that through. So all I'm doing is just sort of pulling down with his finger and then just feeding it through with that right hand. Get him in a similar position. You know, obviously we can bend this back to shape on these ends. So it's a little bit fiddly, but it's not terrible. It now looks something like that. Now Justin, I know you've got a Pajero and I know you've got the Kaon rack. I know a heap of you guys are out there and you got your Kaon rack. So I apologise for making you spend your money on those, although I know everybody's been happy with theirs. I'm going to spend just a little bit more of your money, I reckon. I reckon once you see this and see how sweet it looks, I think you'll be getting these as well. Okay, alright, it has to be these ones in the middle because those holes aren't quite big enough for that to go through. Put these around. Just going to bend that there, and again, like I said, just going to grab that hose clamp. Bottom of the fire extinguisher has a ridge on here, so I'm going to go just a little bit higher than that. I am looking at the fire extinguisher itself because it has instructions here. What I want to leave available is the type. This is an ABE fire extinguisher, so it can fuels, electrical, and just your common fire like paper and stuff like that. I want to leave this still exposed, so I don't want to be sliding this so far down that these clamps are going to hide that. So if anybody needs to come up and grab this, and they've got any idea of how fire extinguishers work and know that you only use certain fire extinguishers on certain fires for them to be effective, then we want this information to be available. And ultimately, probably any fire extinguisher is better than none, providing you're not using a water fire extinguisher on a fuel fire or an electrical fire. So that is roughly how she's going to look. And you can see those clamps are kind of close. Probably a little bit closer than I would want them to be, and certainly a little bit closer than I would want them to be if I had the longer fire extinguishers. If I went with a 2 kilo and it was, you know, this tall, I'd be a little bit concerned that those straps were just a little bit too close. But I think once we tighten those up, I don't think we're going to have any issues. So there is our bracket. That is just going to drop in like that. Pull the pin, she's going to lock in. Just going to stick this back in the bracket. I really like this. Look, I know I say that about a lot of stuff. I know that when I do a review for products, you might see that I always like what I'm reviewing. What you don't see is some of the products that I get delivered that I'm not happy with. So ultimately, if I'm happy with a product, you'll see a review. If I'm not happy with the product, I'll either decline the product flat out and say, look, I'm not interested in it, or I'll be testing it and then you just won't see the review because I'm not happy with it. So, and typically I'll send a response back to the supplier saying, hey look, not really happy with the product. You either, one, are going to get a bad review, or I don't do the review at all, your choice. And to some of their credit, some of them say, yeah, look, go ahead and do the review, but most of them will say, yeah, look, don't worry about it. So that's the deal. So it's not that I dislike everything and I like it and give you a thumbs up because I get it sent to me for free. I only review the things that I like and the things that I want to share with you. If it's something shit, you won't see it at all. So I just don't waste my time doing the video. Now I'm just noticing there is an ever so slight amount of movement. It'll be in that position, so it's not going to be too much, but if I was hanging it like that, you might hear it. Something I didn't notice earlier, you can see just on one side of this bracket here, you can see there's what looks like 4 little screws or something in, but they're actually ball bearings. So they're spring-loaded ball bearings. So that's obviously there to stop that rattling. So they've done something to try and minimise that vibration. Maybe a small coating of rubber or something might work, but there is something there to try and stop that vibration. So you still get a little bit, and I am getting a little bit of movement. This is moving inside the mount itself ever so slightly, and then the back of the Kaon rack is flexing slightly. So it's a combination of both, but not going anywhere. Don't want to obstruct the use of the Kaon rack either, albeit that I'm not using the Kaon rack as much as I thought. I've got some picnic blankets and everything strapped to the front. I've got the switch panel. I've got the road chef here, so I'm using it more as a mounting point rather than using it as a rack, if that makes some sort of sense. I'm not putting a heap of stuff up there because I have found that anything that I put up there, if I don't strap it down, just comes sliding out the back. So that's why I've got everything bungee strapped down up there. Anything that I put up there gets a strap over it, because I have found certainly things that are round, like inflatable mattresses, sleeping bags, stuff like that, if they're not jammed in there, they just, you know, put your foot on the accelerator, they just roll straight out the back and end up on the floor. So if you're looking at the Kaon rack, consider that. That's just something that I'm finding as a user. But I'm absolutely loving this Kaon rack as far as mounting stuff like this to it. I know lots of people put fire extinguishers and stuff in their cars and boats, and I got one in the caravan. I have one in my Delica many moons ago, and it was sitting behind the passenger seat. I had the dog in the front seat, and I slid the side door open because the dog was on the front seat, and I wanted to lay it back so he could have a bit of a lay down. Unfortunately, the seat, the passenger seat, just laid straight on the handle of the fire extinguisher, and the pin, it was one of those Aldi ones. It set it off inside the car, basically with me standing right in front of it and the dog in the front seat. And I don't know if you've ever been near a fire extinguisher where it's gone off, but that powder, it takes the oxygen away, and that's the job of the fire extinguisher. So when you're there in a cloud of that shit, it takes your breath. It's horrendous, it's horrible. So be prepared if you ever set off a fire extinguisher. Make sure, and don't think it's funny to get a fire extinguisher, certainly a powder one. I don't know about the others, but certainly don't think you're going to fire one of these powder extinguishers at one of your mates, because it would be flat out dangerous. Certainly if they've got any breathing issues, that would just compound that, and you might end up with a dead mate. So the bracket itself is obviously aluminium, but she's a real soft aluminium. I mean, ultimately I suppose it doesn't need to be real hard, but yeah, it's soft, so be aware of that. Alright, I think we're done. So ultimately all I need to do is grab that, lock her into place, pull the pin down, and there we go. Yeah, I think I like that. So the idea for me, just a quick grab, pull, and I'm basically, you know, using it. I'll work on my technique. Real easy, just grab it, pull the pin, and away you go. Fire extinguisher, 40 bucks, 39.99 or something I think it cost me. I've seen them as cheap as about 15 bucks if you wait for the Aldi special. That's for the 1 kilo and the longer one, not the short fatty like this one. And then the mount itself was 46 or something along those lines, thereabouts. So realistically you're up for about 100 bucks, but with that lithium battery there, granted if that lithium battery goes, that's probably not putting it out. But we've got gonna have, you know, the air fryer. I've got all the cooking and everything going there. Basically, it would be silly of me not to put a fire extinguisher here. And because she looks so good and it's just so easy to get to that, I really, yeah, I'm impressed with it. Now this is a powder fire extinguisher. And what you want to do, it's probably going to be okay in the four-wheel drive, but certainly something in a caravan, if you've got it standing upright, the powder will eventually condense into the bottom, so it's worth getting them and giving it a bit of a shake every now and then. It's something that I like the look of, and it's functional. Apologies, I was just in there editing the video. I come out just to shoot this a little bit. Apologies for the stray nose hair, I don't know where that come from. I'm going to put this at the end of the video because I didn't want to go and put it at the start of the video, because once you see it, you're just going to be watching that nose hair for the whole video. So I'll leave that to the end for you. You can go back and have a look if you want. That's it, everybody. Thanks for stopping by. Again, thanks to everybody who said, thanks to everybody that sent the compliments for the 10,000 subscribers. Of course, thanks to all the 10,000 subscribers. Appreciate you having on board. Appreciate you being on board. Of course, appreciate your views. And as I say to you all, I like helping you spend your money. And I think this might be on a lot of people's list. It's not something you need. You could go out and just buy the fire extinguisher for the 40 odd bucks and use the original mounting bracket. You don't need to go and get this and spend an extra 46 bucks. But I've got a feeling you're gonna. If you're anything like me, you see something like this, like I did on somebody's YouTube channel, and just went, yeah, I do need that. Now I've got one. I might just take you around the front and just show you something else that I'm working on at the moment. I think you'll like these. You can see we've got some big lights on the front. I'll give you an idea where they've come from. So we've swapped out the 7 inches for some big 9s with the laser beam type configuration here. I need to get out and do some night testing with these. I just haven't had the opportunity to do so. I don't think they're as bright as my cheap eBay ones. But again, I've done really limited testing on these and need to get out. But I tell you what, from a look perspective, these things are bloody beautiful. And I've also got an LED bar on its way from Oxbeam as well. Similar sort of series as this with the laser configuration. I don't know what size yet, so that's going to be a surprise. And their timing could not be better because you can see I'm starting to get moisture in this light bar. So anyway, so we've got a few reviews coming up on the channel. The light bar should probably be here, you know, sometime hopefully in the next few weeks or something. I found Oxbeam really quick with getting stuff out to me, even with the postage issue going on. We're going to cover off that Q&A video, which I'll do a travel video. So we're going to get out, we're going to use the Pajero and we're going to test her out. I'm going to take the air fryer, I'll use that. We're going to try and do some testing of the different cooking methods in the four-wheel drive as well. The brass monkey will come along. So a whole bunch of stuff that you've seen previous videos of, and then obviously some stuff that you haven't seen just yet. Alright, cheers, get out of here. Thanks for stopping by again. We'll see you on the next one, eh?